Hi everyone, it's Az here from HeelvsBabyface. I saw this article on PC Gamer and I was actually pretty fascinated by it, to be totally honest with you, because you tend to find when you have somebody that appears, I can't tell for sure because I've never had a conversation with them, appears to have a lot of passion and enthusiasm for the industry, talk about certain elements that make sense, that they're probably coming from the right place in terms of they're not bullshitting you, they're not trying to sell you a bill of goods, they're not trying to exaggerate, but it's genuinely their honest experience. So when I saw Mass Effect writer Drew Karpyshyn says he left Bioware because it became too corporate, my ears just pricked up a bit. Why? Because this is a very familiar story, is it not? Companies getting very corporate. Blizzard! That was subtle. But no, Blizzard is a perfect example of this. And you don't sense the genuine love or enthusiasm for the products that they're putting out. You just feel this inexorable push towards appeasing shareholders, making sure you cash bonuses and this sort of business. Particularly when you announce that you've had your best year to date and then sack 800 people across the board, shifting about 11% of your company's workforce. Nothing says corporate like that. So, Drew Karpyshyn has rejoined with former Bioware buddies James Olin and Chad Robertson. Now, Chad will obviously be a familiar name if you've been on this channel or just kept your ear to the ground, because Chad, of course, was the head of live services for Anthem, and everyone kept leaving, and then I don't know if it was the first or the second lead left. Then Chad took over, and then Chad left very soon after. And now I don't think they've I don't think they've announced an appointment since Chad left. Maybe, in case they leave as well. So now you've got Drew Karpyshyn, you've got James Olin, and you've got Chad Robertson, all at the same company, all former Bioware employees, and particularly James Olin and Drew Karpyshyn. And I'm not trying to throw shade at Chad, it's just that I'm not particularly au fait with Chad's background, have massive pedigrees behind them. These are the guys that dealt with Baldur's Gate. These are the guys that dealt with Dragon Age Origins. They're the guys that dealt with Knights of the Old Republic. So they've got a real pedigree, body of work behind them. And some of my favourite games of all time are in there. Baldur's Gate's a good romp. I wouldn't personally put it up there because, but it's a good romp. But Knights of the Old Republic was just unbelievable at the time. And most of you know, I absolutely adore Dragon Age Origins. I think it's just an outstanding game. And Drew will probably never see this video, so he'll never appreciate this. But to me, the writing of Dragon Age Origins was what made it just so incredible. The storytelling in that was just, oh my God, superb. I have to play this game again. It's got to go onto a list of games that I play again. Maybe I'll go on a playthrough vote for the future for members. Ads and that. So, the article just says, longtime designer James Olin left the studio in July 2018 after 22 years and credits games ranging from Baldur's Gate to Anthem. Bit harsh to put Anthem there. His departure comes shortly after that of writer Drew Karpyshyn, who'd been with Bioware for nearly as long. His first credit is as a writer and editor of Baldur's Gate 2 Manual, and who left for a second time a few months earlier. Now they're back together again at Olin's new studio, Archetype Entertainment. And it says that Drew wrote on his blog. So, with that said, I'm going to jump to Drew's blog now. So he starts off by saying something which hooked me in. I guess that's, again, the mark of a good writer. Something that just hooks you in. Doesn't just go straight for a bang, bang, bang. You can tell by the way he phrases stuff his writing background. It's been a long time since I updated this page. The past couple of years have been busy for me. I worked on a number of different projects, some like Odyssey of the Dragon Lords RPG campaign were wildly successful. Other projects, like my work as a writer for the interactive narrative mobile app Storyscape, didn't pan out. So it starts off with a pro and a con. And yes, Odyssey of the Dragon Lords, I looked at this because I wasn't aware of it. 8,200 plus backers taking over $450,000. That is a huge success. A huge success. And I kind of looked through it and I looked through the details and, you know, it's something I've never got into, but I've always wanted to get into, and I feel like I'm too old. It's too late for me. But yeah, you could see that was massively successful. Then he takes a paragraph to actually discuss the failing of Storyscape and his frustration with that. But he picks it up to say, fortunately for me, I have another gig now. I'm proud to announce that I'm the lead writer for Archetype Entertainment, founded by James Olin, the creative genius behind Bioware hits like Baldur's Gate, Knights of the Old Republic, and Dragon Age. Archetype is a new video game studio under the Wizards of the Coast umbrella. And I haven't been this excited to work on a project for a long, long time. Side note, I've always enjoyed working with the Wizards of the Coast. They even purchased my first novel. This is where things get interesting. I've been in the video industry now for 20 years. When I started at Bioware, everything was fresh and exciting. It was a dream job. Talented people working together to create epic games like Baldur's Gate, Knights of the Old Republic, Mass Effect, and Dragon Age. I'm just going to stop it there for now. That is a fucking huge body of work. I mean, quality body of work right there. Mass Effect, the first Mass Effect games, sure. The first Mass Effect game had its issues, but you could tell what they were trying to achieve. I always called the first Mass Effect game a flawed masterpiece because you could see the intent and they didn't quite pull it off. Come Mass Effect 2, boom, they got it. They absolutely nailed it. And so I was never one of these people that were just like, oh, you know, it's boring or it's this or it's that. I could see how this was going to develop. I could see how this could be, you know, could work. They need to, tighten up the squad-based stuff here. You know, they need to open up the world for discovery. The discovery element isn't that. So you could see the elements that they needed to tweak and change. And my God, did they do it. But one thing that remained consistent throughout the 1, 2, and 3 with Mass Effect, and piss off all the people that just want to throw Mass Effect down the drain because of the ending. You know? There was a great game that led up, yes, to a disappointing ending that was about 15 minutes long, but all that shouldn't dismiss everything that went before it. The narrative that ran through that trilogy of games was sensational, absolutely sensational. And the same with Dragon Age Origins. The narrative that ran through that game, the story, the locations, everything. The characters were so developed. It was just the quality of work again. Knights of the Old Republic. Again, just the quality of the writing, the characters. This is when I was totally in love with Bioware. I was still in love with them after Inquisition. I thought Dragon Age Inquisition was a lot of fun. I know people don't, a lot of people don't, I do. But to me, it just fell apart at Mass Effect Andromeda. That's when it all fell apart. So I was expecting good things from Bioware. It's hard to believe that Mass Effect Andromeda, released in 2017, it feels like it came out 5-6 years ago now. 2017. Crazy. And then they've had from that, which they gave up on, you know, they cancelled the future DLCs for it and all that. Ditched it. Then they worked on Anthem under the the heavy boot of EA by the looks of it, and look at Anthem. Another fucking disaster. Absolute disaster. So much so that they've now announced, of course, that the game's gone into maintenance mode, and they're not going to be updating it anymore, apart from, fixes and stuff, and regular maintenance. But they're not going to be adding any content to it. Too late. You're going to have to wait now until they rebuild Anthem. Anthem 2.0, Anthem Next, which, as I keep saying, is got to be so far down the line. If it comes out in a year's time, it's probably going to be just as big a cluster as the original launch, because they need the proper development time on this. So that was I know, a bit waffly, this one, a bit self-indulgent, sorry. But that is just a colossal body of work that these people have been responsible for. But as we grew, and I say we as in Bioware at that time, but as we grew and became more successful, things changed. We became more corporate. We were less able to make what we loved, and the teams were pushed to create games based on market research, rather than our creative instincts and passions. My dream job became just a job, and I lost the enthusiasm and excitement I once had. There was just something about that touched me quite emotionally, because, you know me, I'm a very reserved guy. Okay, I wear my heart on my sleeve, yeah? When I get pissed about something, I'm ranty and I get angry. I don't hold back. I say what I think. It's the Yorkshireman in me. We can't help it. But it's so clear when I've been critical of companies like Blizzard, critical of games like World of Warcraft, that one of the things that I keep saying is the passion's gone, the care's gone, the love's gone. It's just they don't care anymore. And how can you care when you can't be a creative spirit? How can you care when you can't follow your instincts, like he says in this, that when you can't say, look, right, we had a hit with Knights of the Old Republic, it's a Star Wars brand, it's going to draw in a certain audience, but we create Dragon Age and we create this massively successful RPG in Mass Effect Origins. We then switch genres and go from fantasy into sci-fi and start to develop this incredible Mass Effect series. One thing that they all have is just exceedingly well-written story and characters. It's so important to success. It's so important to pull people in to your world, to your universe, to whatever it may be. As opposed to fucking world quests and do a dungeon 17 times over, slightly more difficult than the last. And I saw a tweet from Mike at Bioware, and he said, oh, it's wonderful to see Ian Hazacosta speak so passionately about raiding and the world first thing. And this isn't a stab at Michael, by the way. But I just thought in my head, yeah, of course. Because that's all Ian gives a shit about at World of Warcraft. That's all he cares about. That's where he came from. Is the development of raiding. So yeah, that's his little fucking baby. When it comes to the rest of the stuff, it's fucking shite. Absolute shite. You've got to have the same passion. Ooh, he's getting there. Oh, the voice is getting up again. Sorry. You've got to have the same passion across everything. You can't favour one thing and ignore 90% of your customer base when only X amount are doing your raiding. You've got to have the same passion, care and attention right across the board. Mass Effect Andromeda, to go back to Bioware, because I'm just obviously, mirroring things which I've seen with Blizzard and WoW. Mass Effect Andromeda, you could see from the team that they put together that this was destined for failure. You had a huge racist running the show that was spending more time on Twitter talking about how he hates white people all day. Oh, I love getting white people angry. White people this, white people that. He was gone. The person that they got writing the project, never done anything like this before. The engine they were unfamiliar with. They couldn't get to grips with it. They couldn't get it to work properly. That's why I had all these fucking insane... I mean, don't get me wrong. Fucking hilarious. animation glitches and errors that you got all over the place. But again, where did it fall apart? It fell apart from a foundation level. The story was shit. The enemy was generic, and the characters were bland and superficial. And that is not what Bioware, to me, were known for. They were known for knocking this stuff out of the park. And that's where the frustration sets in. Because you can feel when something is either being created by somebody that doesn't simply have the talent or the creativity or the imagination to do something, and when something is. This is a very self-indulgent video for me, and I do apologise. I do. I'm sorry, but I'm not sorry. Because I want, for all my ranting and raving, you know, I want nothing more than to be able to enjoy Bioware products again. I really don't. I would love to have them release a new Mass Effect game in the series, wherever it may be, whether it be with Shepard or not with Shepard, and just have it an amazing game with great characters in a great universe with a wide variety of non-generic and non-fish people, or a Dragon Age game that isn't going to be some live service fucking cash-in or anything like that. That's, again, character-focused, story-focused, and we're going to get ourselves a lovely, wonderful fantasy RPG experience. Or a brand new franchise, which could have happened with Anthem. But again, one of Anthem's major problems, never mind all the bugs, never mind all the glitches and the lack of content and the lack of depth and all that jazz, the story was shit. The characters were shit. And that's your fundamental building blocks for these type of games. It felt like a soulless, mismanaged mess that once again wanted to whack the live service tag on it to entice people to part with more cash. And people are just getting too savvy to this now. Way too savvy. What was one of the biggest selling games, I think the fourth biggest selling game of last year, it was Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order. A single player game from a company, from a publisher. It was, of course, made by Respawn, published by EA, where EA said single player is dead. People want live services. Which is not the case. That's the corporate side speaking. People adore single player. The last few years, you just have to look at a plethora of hugely successful single player games. From Jedi Fallen Order, to the Resident Evil 2 remake, to the God of War, to the Detroit Become Human. Massively successful single player experiences. Because gamers still love and want these experiences. And when they become corporate, when they just look at stat sheets and market research and don't actually look at history to what has been successful and what has made it successful, then you get what we have with a lot of the bigger industries, the bigger companies at the moment, who are just producing generic shit because that's what their data sheets have told them to do. Well, we actually discovered that 67.8% of people that played in World of Warcraft currently have participated in a world quest, and therefore they just don't see it. They just don't see the picture. So, good luck to us, man Drew. I'd be interested to see what Archetype Studios, or Archetype Entertainment, I should say, do beg your pardon, can create, because they do now have an excellent writer there, and they have somebody with a proven history with the owner of the company and James Olin. Again, no shade to Chad. I'm just not familiar too much with the body of work. So good luck, and, you know, fingers crossed we get, you know, whatever it be. It's a small studio, so don't expect a massive AAA. But it just would be interesting to see what comes out of it. Hopefully it's going to be something unique, different, or just something which you can see has been made with love, care, and attention, and hopefully not a mobile cash grab, which, if that happens, I'm just going to curl up in a ball and run away. Sorry, right, there you go. I'm done now. I'm done, I promise. Hope you enjoyed the vid. If you did, do get a thumbs up and also subscribe to the channel. Follow me on social media and Twitch for live streaming links. Then in the description box down below, and I'll be back with some more stuff very soon. You take care. Bye for now.